At dusk, the marble face of the Mariner Eccles building looks unshakable, but today the American experiment in central bank independence wobbled. President Donald Trump declared that he had fired Federal Reserve Governor Lisa D. Cook effective immediately, posting a letter that accuses her of lying on mortgage forms and invoking his constitutional authority and the Federal Reserve Act. It is a dramatic first-ever attempt to summarily remove a sitting Fed governor, a move that lands at the intersection of law, markets, and political theater. The allegation against Cook did not materialize out of thin air. Bill Pult, the Trump-appointed director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, referred supposed mortgage irregularities to the Justice Department and publicly pressed the case, setting the stage for the president's letter, whether those claims hold. Water is now secondary to the constitutional and statutory question that will dominate the next few weeks. Does for cause removal apply here, and who decides? The text matters. Section 10 of the Federal Reserve Act says governors may be removed for cause by the president. That phrase is guardrail and tripwire in. 1. It does not confer at will power. It demands a showing, traditionally. Inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance. In modern separation of powers doctrine, the Supreme Court has narrowed some for-cause shields, notably for single-director agencies like the CFPB, but it has also preserved the core logic of Humphrey's executor for multi-member expert bodies. In plain English, the president can remove a Fed governor only if he proves cause, and that claim is ripe for a court to test. Expect that test to begin almost immediately. What did the country see in the first hours after the announcement? Two things at once. First, a White House projecting decisiveness, a posted letter, the language of integrity and accountability, the suggestion that the Fed has been unresponsive to elected leadership. Second, a chorus of institutionalists from central bank veterans to market economists, warning about the costs of politicizing the one body designed to outlast any one administration. The initial market tape told its own story. Futures slipped, the dollar softened, gold ticked up, and the Treasury curve steepened as traders penciled in the possibility of a more dovish replacement, but a bumpier road for credibility. Lisa Cook is not an abstraction. She is the first black woman ever to serve on the Board of Governors, a macroeconomist with a long resume in academia and public service, photographed just 2 years ago taking her oath with Chair Jerome Powell at her side. That biography is now part of the politics. Supporters describe her as a careful, data-driven voice who has argued for measured policy paths. Critics, now led by the administration, cast her as compromised by alleged personal misconduct. However you read it, removing a Senate confirmed governor with a term that runs to 2038 would give the president another opportunity to reshape the board's balance. What are the arguments you will hear in the days ahead from the administration? Cause is cause, and if the allegation is serious enough to erode public trust, the president has both the duty and the power to act. From critics, allegations are not adjudications, and the Fed's statutory independence exists precisely to avoid policy-driven purges. If cause becomes a label for policy disagreement, the firewall collapses. From legal scholars, this will hinge on evidence and process. Was there an investigation? Were findings made? Is the link between the alleged wrongdoing and official duties clear? And on whether courts treat a Fed governor like other tenure-protected commissioners. Markets will translate the constitutional fight into basis points. If the removal stands or even just hangs in limbo, and the White House signals a slate of more rate dovish nominees, short-dated yields are likely to drift lower while long-dated yields drift higher. Classic steepener behavior as investors price easier policy now and stickier inflation risk later. That's essentially what flickered across screens after the letter dropped. Meanwhile, equity traders will toggle between relief, lower rates, and worry, weaker Fed credibility, risk premia up. Journalists, for their part, will keep showing you two pictures, the screenshot of the dismissal letter and the limestone facade on Constitution Avenue. One is the assertion of power, the other is the promise of permanence, and ordinary citizens, homebuyers, savers, small business owners will ask the question that actually governs politics. Does this help my life make sense? If mortgage rates fall but inflation anxieties rise, ambivalence will harden. If nothing tangible changes, or if the fight drags the central bank through months of headline-driven uncertainty, patience will thin. My view, this is a stress test of our civic muscle memory. The United States built the Fed to be accountable yet insulated, accountable through statute, confirmation, and oversight, insulated so that a 24-hour news cycle does not whipsaw a 24-month inflation fight. That balance can work only if for cause means something concrete and provable, not simply for convenience. This is why process will matter more than posture, the Justice Department's choices, the Fed's internal response, and most importantly, the court's willingness to require a factual record will decide whether the country sees firmness or sees a politicized smash and grab. What happens next? 3 near-term steps are likely. 1. Injunction roulette. Cook or the Fed itself will seek emergency relief, probably the D.C. Circuit, arguing that the removal is unlawful absent proven cause and appropriate procedure. If a stay is granted, she could remain in place while litigation proceeds. If not, the seat is effectively vacant pending appeal. Either way, briefs will lean heavily on the Federal Reserve, acts for cause clause, and on precedents that protect multi-member boards. 2. Confirmation chess. If the White House moves quickly to nominate a replacement and perhaps accelerate other pending Fed picks, the Senate's pace will determine whether the board tilts more dovish or simply more aligned with the president's policy preferences. Expect bruising hearings that double as a referendum on independence. Early market coverage already frames this as an opening to reshape the board. 3. Credibility calculus. The Fed will do what institutions do: keep meeting, keep publishing, keep talking, but messaging will get harder. Every dot plot, every speech will be read through the lens of political pressure. If the data allow a cut soon, skeptics will say the bank blinked. If the Fed stands pat, the White House will claim it's ignoring growth. That no-win dynamic is exactly why this fight is so consequential.